How many of you the cup is an important metaphor, spiritual metaphor, I think, in life. How many of you in life, at a wedding or at a Thanksgiving dinner with your loved ones, or a Christmas dinner, or just a festive event, how many of you took glasses? Do you have any glasses? If they're coffee mugs, you want to raise them? How many of you did that? Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, or maybe you said, peace be with you today, or may God's joy fill you with, unspeakable joy, to good health, to long life. How many of you have done that? Raise your hand. Yes. Maybe your child, your grandchild just recently got married, and you held up your glasses, or someone held up the glasses at the reception, or and they said, to life, to long years of bliss and happiness. May your marriage go well. However you do it, you celebrate that auspicious occasion, that event in their life that means so much to them. The cup, the glass, is so important in life, especially in times of celebration, also in times of sorrow. So for some of you today, the cup has symbolic significance. For you, it might be a cup of suffering that you hold in your life, that you're like, Lord, I just want to give this cup of suffering over to you. Maybe I was thinking about praying today, how do we resist temptation and how, and all of that. And I was like, no, I want to get a concrete example of what do you do in times of temptation? Maybe in times of temptation, you're like Jesus, you said, Lord, or your times of suffering or pain, you're like, Lord, I don't want this cup. I want it to be passed to someone else. Take it from me. I don't think I can get through this alone. I don't know if I can tolerate it. I don't know if I can stand it. Just the amount of anxiety you're experiencing, the grief, the sadness, the anger. For some of you, the cup is filled with sorrow, with sadness, with bitterness, with unforgiveness. The whole cup holds a lot, doesn't it? For some of you, it's filled with joy, anticipation, peace, gratitude. Others of you, Carol, maybe you think of the cup in Folgers crystals. The best part of waking up is what?
It's hard to face the day, but he knows your favorite way. Folgers starting to brew, the aroma's calling you. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
Mornings are brighter with mountain-grown Folgers decaffeinated. Mountain-grown beans have a more enticing aroma and richer flavor.
That rich aromatic brew that's decaffeinated too.
You're finally waking up.
And it's decaffeinated?
The best part of waking up, your wife, is Folgers in your cup.
What do you think? I'm just saying, sometimes the best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup. Or sometimes the best part of waking up is going ahead and grabbing that cup, embracing that cup, right? And lifting it up and saying, to life, to health. Were there times in your life when you raised your favorite coffee mug or cup and gave thanks to God for another day? For another opportunity to hang out with your kids, another opportunity to breathe in the beautiful fall air, maybe another beautiful opportunity to see the leaves changing on trees. The cups can be a reminder of just not taking life for granted, giving thanks in the times of suffering, maybe in times of pain, and just offering God thanks. I think one of the things that cup of life signifies for me is it represents solidarity in times of grief and challenges. It reminds us that we're not alone at the communion table. I'll never forget, when I was growing up, I thought, okay, let's take the wafer, or let's take the bread and let's dip it in the cup in tinction, or let's just take it because that's what we do. As Presbyterians, we are very good at being habit-forming people. And I thought, oh, I'll just take it and drink the juice. And then I realized when I was a chaplain, 6 units of CPE, oh gosh, they really deconstruct your story, deconstruct you, reconstruct you. And I'm surprised I'm still in one piece. And one of the things I really grasped when I was in the hospital as a chaplain was the cup is significant when people are struggling for breath or dying, or they've had a terrible prognosis, a terrible diagnosis. You know what they're looking for? You know what they're looking for? They're looking for ritual. They're looking for comfort. And so I show up with the communion, the cup, and the bread at their room, at their bedside. And you know what? That makes their day. Thank you, Chaplain Eric. You brought me the cup. You brought me the communion cup. You brought me the juice and the bread, the cup of salvation. And that gets them through a tough and debilitating crisis in their life. Ritual. I have to say, ritual is something that connects them to the sacred, to God, God's love in some way. And when they see that visible cup and they eat that visible bread, they are reminded of God's presence of love right with them through faith, that God is there. In Jesus' most vulnerable times of pain and suffering and temptation, Jesus would desire the cup of suffering to be passed from him. Not my will, but your will be done, Lord. When the mother of James and John asked Jesus to give her sons a special place in his kingdom, Jesus responds, can you drink the cup? And this question can be the most radical and challenging question in life. Can we drink from the cup? I don't know if we can. It's a huge question. Many times cups hold both profound joy and profound suffering. Can we, as Jesus points out to the mother of James and John, hold our cups and claim them as our own? Sometimes we grasp tightly to our coffee mugs and cups, not realizing how tightly we cling to the cup of life or the cup of pain or death. We cling at times desperately holding on to our pain and suffering, unwilling, for whatever reason, to let go of the cup of suffering and sorrow. We just somehow are we hold on to the pain and the suffering and the unforgiveness and the bitterness. Can we drink from the cup? Henry Nouwen, one of my favorite writers, along with actually Joyce Rupp. I met Joyce. Beautiful spiritual writer. Both Henry Nouwen and Joyce Rupp are both profound spiritual writers, along with Howard Rice as well. I like Howard Rice as well. And here's what Nouwen says. We must all hold the cups of our lives. As we grow older and become more fully aware of the many sorrows of life, listen to this, personal failures, family conflicts, disappointments in work, social life, and the many pains surrounding us on the national and international scene, I think Nouwen was prophetic. Everything within and around us conspires to make us ignore, avoid, suppress, or simply deny these sorrows. No, I don't think we should hold on to bitterness in the cup of wrath, but instead, as Nouwen remarks, we need to hold our cups to fully acknowledge what we are living. Fully acknowledging what we are living, trusting that by not avoiding but befriending our sorrows, that we are making a space for God's redemption. And we are making space for something to be reborn in that. There are 3 valuable lessons we learn from holding the cup of life. And I learned this from Nouwen and Joyce Rupp. First, write this down. Holding the cup invites fellow travelers and spiritual companions to join us in communion and solidarity. How many of you have felt alone in your struggle or suffering and you don't feel like anybody acknowledges your pain and your discomfort? That's why we bring the cup to that person. And we say, when we hold the cup of sorrow, we insightfully find that we are not alone in our misery and sorrow. Even as we face temptation and suffering, we discover our true community and our true friends. Those who do not abandon us or leave us, and who also, like us, experience the same cup of sorrow and disappointment we find ourselves in now. The first act of sharing in the cup of sorrow is what Henry Nouwen calls lifting the cup. Can you do that right now? And lifting our cups means that we are not ashamed of what we are living. I like that. We are not ashamed of what we are living. We embrace in all of its realities what we are living. And this gesture encourages others to befriend their truth as we are trying to befriend ours. By lifting our cups and saying to one another, to life, to your health, we proclaim that we are living or willing to look truthfully at our lives together. We are willing to be vulnerable, Brene Brown again. We are willing to dare to be vulnerable, dare to be who we are together. Second, write this down. We need to drink the cup. Henry Nouwen acknowledges drinking our cups means fully appropriating and internalizing what each of us has acknowledged as our life. With all of its unique sorrows and joys, we need to be fully aware of the temptations that are out there, tripping us up and wreaking havoc on our life. How do we drink our cups? We drink them as we listen in silence to the truth of our lives. As we speak in trust with friends about ways we want to grow. And as we act in deeds of service. Thus our life cups become the cups of salvation. When we have emptied them to the bottom, God will fill them with water for eternal life. I'll never forget, I was at the VA hospital. Gosh, I can't believe it. I was 30-some years old. I was young, I was hip, and I felt like life was in me. And then I worked at the VA, and I saw all the sorrow and the suffering. I'll never forget one Thanksgiving. Stop me if I've shared this story. One Thanksgiving, there was a vet by himself sleeping in a bed. And I think I worked that Thanksgiving. And he was in his bed by himself dying, and, as like hospice, chaplains, it was the death rattle, whom does the bell toll? It tolls for me, and that kept coming to mind, that whole poem, that whole thing. And I remember that veteran, I went in to his room, it was dark, and what do you call those little, I think they used it for Jesus, but a little sponge, you wet their tongue, when they can't swallow, and you get that little, have that sponge, and you dab it on their mouth or whatever, their lips. And I remember that tasted so good to that veteran. He was probably in his 80s, and it tasted so good to him because he couldn't swallow. And I just remember thinking, I stayed there for about 15 minutes just hanging out with him in that place. And I gave him communion. Hello, cup of sorrow, cup of joy, redemption. And I just gave him communion, and I dipped the sponge on his lips. And I could just remember the smile that came across his mouth, and there was no one else that would visit him. He was alone. And that's the power of the cup. That's the power of the ritual of communion. Taking communion to that person, eating with them, and giving them this cup of life. And I'll never forget that veteran, because I came out of that room. It was probably spent about 15 minutes in that room. I came out of the room, the nurse automatically, I think nurses kind of get used to the rounds, doing the rounds, and a nurse came up to me, and she goes, "Man, you were in there for a long time. Is something wrong with you?" I was like, "No, he's by himself. He's dying by himself. Would you like me to leave you, like go in for 5 minutes and then leave? He's dying by himself. He has no one." So I am his own, I'm his contact. I'm the presence of Jesus. I am incarnating Jesus. So I'll never forget that. That nurse kind of analyzed, was something wrong with you? No, there's something wrong with this situation. There's no one there for him except me. Remember that. How do we drink our cups? Third, we need to offer the cup of blessing to ourselves as well as others. We need to be grateful for our lives and the many gifts God has bestowed on us. There are many blessings we need to see daily. The beach, the lake, the sun, the grass, the leaves changing on the trees. Cluckers. I love Cluckers. Anybody been there? Jeffersonville? Oh, I love it. Love Cluckers. I love their chicken. Anyway, life is a blessing, and when we drink the cup of blessing, we acknowledge the many everyday gifts God has blessed us with. Family, friends, health, and our faith, and we truly drink the cup of blessing, giving thanks before, during, and after. We drink, and you know what? We are blessed today for an installation. We are grateful. I'm grateful for you. I am grateful for all that life has to offer. The joys as well as the sorrows. And I think that's what I'm learning. The cup is filled with both. It's mixed. Life is mixed. Our cups are mixed with both joy and sorrow. I think that's what I'm learning as a chaplain. That's what I've learned in hospice. To bless is to bring the touch of God. This is what, I love Joyce Rupp. How many of you like Joyce Rupp? Oh, she was influenced, I think, by Nouwen because she wrote a book on the cup. And I want to share a little bit what she says. Joyce Rupp has said, blessing God for the ancient Jewish people was nothing but acknowledging with gratitude all that God has done for them. Yes, we can bless God's holy name with thankful hearts. Anyone and anything that brings good or godness into our lives is a blessing. To bless is to bring the touch of God, the touch of love. End of quote. I just love Joyce Rupp. After we have lifted the cup, drank from the cup, and blessed the cup, we now set the cup down and look how full or empty our own spiritual cups are in our life, how empty our spiritual lives are. How many of you would say your spiritual life is full right now? My cup right here, I have coffee, it's almost empty. Remember that when your cup is empty, who's going to fill that cup? Again, I want to go back to Joyce Rupp. Again, I love this lady. She's awesome. She's awesome. One comment that is memorable for me is from Rupp's book, write this down, The Cup of Our Life. That's it. In which she helpfully describes that, quote, sometimes we are unable to accept the blessing because we are still too hurt, too angry, too grieved, too overwhelmed to receive it. I love that. Let me say that again. She's awesome. I love her. Sometimes we are unable to accept the blessing because we are still too hurt, too angry, too grieved, too overwhelmed to receive it. After we have lifted the cup, remember to look at the cup. What's in it? Maybe when we drink from the cup, we see and feel the presence of God in the cup. Or maybe at times we drink from the cup, we see how distant God is from our lives because it's empty. Our lives are empty. Our cups are empty. Maybe we're spiritually getting burnt out and we need to go on a spiritual retreat. Camp Pioka, there's a plug. Henry Nouwen, I think, centers me again with these formidable words, and I hope this works for you. We must empty the cups of our lives completely to be able to receive the fullness of life from God. Jesus lives this on the cross. The moment of complete emptiness and complete fullness became the same. When he had given all away to Abba, his dear daddy, he cried out, "It is fulfilled! It is finished!" He who was lifted up on the cross was also lifted into the resurrection. Do we slow down and reflect on how both the cross and the tomb are inseparable from the empty tomb and the resurrection? They go both hand in hand. Fullness and emptiness, absence and presence is the complex dance of the spiritual cup and the spiritual life, for me anyway. How do we integrate the two? How do we find a holistic spiritual life? Here's my challenge. How do we drink the cup tells a lot about our spiritual life and whether our spiritual life is deep or shallow, full or empty. Do we drink it too quickly? What's in the cup? Do we go like this? Do we just drink real quickly through it? That's sometimes a symbolic for me of wanting to get through the sorrow quickly. We got to get through the cup of suffering quickly, sorrow quickly. Or some of us, the cup of joy. Maybe we want to swallow the cup of joy quickly. And we don't want to slow down and enjoy and savor every drink and every drop. How many of you, when you're at the best part of waking up is Folgers, how many of you, when you get up in the morning and make coffee and you drink that, How many of you do it slowly? Raise your hand. How many of you go through it quickly? Raise your hand. I offer to slow down, to savor every moment. Now, here's what I want to do. Take your cup. That's why I wanted you to bring your cup today. You have your cup? Some of you do. Lift them up. I want to bless you. I want to offer God's blessing on you, okay? Let us pray. Lord, I want to bless these people today with their cups. Lord, I ask that some of these cups have amazing sayings on them, memorable sayings. Each of us has a personal cup, a personal spiritual life that we go through that is filled with both pain and sorrow, joy and anticipation of the resurrection. It's the cup of salvation. It's a cup of sorrow. It's mixed in together. Lord, bless these people today. Bless them as they leave here today. Bless their families. Bless their health. Bless their life. Give them joy. Help them to see the joy in the sorrow and the sorrow in the joy. Help them. They're both together. Help them to integrate both so that they have a more holistic picture of the spiritual life. Bless them. Bless their cups, Lord. Help their cups be brimming over with joy and brimming over with gratitude and brimming over with just being in the moment and giving thanks for life, for breath, for the grass under our feet, for the sky above us, the sun, beautiful day outside. Bless them, bless their families, bless their kids and their grandkids. Bless them as they minister in this church. Bless them as they go out and minister in the community. Bless their Bible studies, bless their book studies, bless their homeless ministry, bless their refugee ministry, bless their Christian education ministry, bless their finance and budget committee, bless congregational care, bless everything, Lord. Bless property, bless all of these committees, bless this church. Help them to find their spiritual vitality, their spiritual health. Help them to feel like they have a mission and a goal in their life. Bless them, Lord. Bless them. Fill their cups and let them see the many blessings that it fills. Amen.